It all started on a blistering Saturday afternoon. The kind of day where the air feels like it's clinging to your skin, and the only escape is cold water and a cold drink. My escape was my pool, a sparkling blue paradise I'd spent too much time and money perfecting. I was floating peacefully in my inflatable donut raft, half asleep with a glass of lemonade balanced on my stomach, when I heard the dreaded sound of flip-flops smacking against pavement. "Hey!" a shrill voice called out. I cracked one eye open, already regretting it. Karen was standing at my fence, her oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown of entitlement. She had that smug expression I'd come to associate with HOA complaints, passive-aggressive emails, and her constant demands for me to trim my bushes to uniform height. "You know," she started, her arms crossed like she was about to lay down the law, "that pool is technically * community property, *." I blinked at her. "What?" "You heard me," Karen said, her smirk widening. "We all pay HOA dues, which means your pool is part of our shared amenities." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. The sheer audacity of her statement hit me like a punchline. "Nice try," I said, shifting my sunglasses down over my eyes. "But I pay for the water bill. I pay for maintenance. My pool, my rules." Karen's face twitched, her lips curling in that tight little way she did when someone didn't instantly cave to her nonsense. "You'll be hearing from the HOA," she snapped. "Great," I said. "Tell them I said hi." I assumed that was the end of it. Karen was notorious for empty threats, and I figured she'd get bored and move on to scolding someone about their lawn ornaments or mailbox color. But 2 days later, I came home to find her and her gremlin-like trio of kids splashing in * my pool. I froze in disbelief. Towels were draped across my patio furniture, like I was hosting some sort of neighborhood resort. One of her kids had my pool noodles, jousting with his brother like they were knights of the shallow end. An empty bag of chips lay open on my deck, crumbs scattered like confetti. "What the hell is this?" I barked. Karen, reclining on one of my lounge chairs, barely looked up from her phone. "Just enjoying our * community property, *," she said, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "That's not how this works," I shouted. "Well," she drawled, sipping something from a tumbler, "you should have been more neighborly." I clenched my fists, half tempted to throw one of her kids' sneakers in the deep end. But I knew better. This wasn't just about the pool anymore. This was a battle of wills. "Oh, don't worry," I said through gritted teeth. "I'll fix this." As I stomped back inside, my mind was already racing. Karen thought she'd won, but she had no idea who she was messing with. If she wanted to play dirty, I was prepared to go * all in *. The next morning, I woke up early, fueled by frustration and a burning need for revenge. Karen thought she could waltz into my backyard and claim my pool like some kind of suburban pirate. Fine. If she wanted to act like she owned it, I'd turn it into something no one could enjoy, or at least, no one sane. I spent the better part of the morning brainstorming. My first idea was to fill the pool with soap bubbles, but that felt too simple. Glitter crossed my mind, but the thought of cleaning that out made me queasy. Then it hit me. Jello. The idea was ridiculous, inconvenient, and brilliantly annoying. Karen couldn't argue that I was destroying my property. I'd just be enhancing it, in a way that nobody in their right mind would want to deal with. By noon I was in the bulk store, tossing box after box of Jello into my cart. Cherry, lime, blue raspberry. I didn't care what flavor it was, as long as it looked outrageous. The cashier stared at my mountain of gelatin, like I was starting some twisted science experiment. "Big party?" they asked. "Something like that," I said, smirking. I spent the next 2 days in full mad scientist mode. Every pot and kettle in my house was dedicated to boiling water. I was stirring and pouring non-stop, emptying gallon after gallon of red and green sludge into plastic cups. My garage turned into a chaotic assembly line, stacks of Jello cups covering every available surface. By the end of it, I had over 10,000 cups. My arms ached, my back throbbed, and I was pretty sure my house smelled like a candy factory. But it was done. That night, Under the cover of darkness, I crept into my backyard. The neighborhood was quiet, and Karen's house was dark. I grabbed my first crate of Jello cups, peeled back the lids, and dumped them into the pool. The cups plopped in one after another, the liquid shimmering under the porch light. The red Jello floated across the water in gelatinous blobs. Next came the green, then the blue. The colors swirled together like some kind of deranged rainbow stew. It took hours. By the time I was done, my arms felt like noodles, and the smell of artificial fruit clung to me like a second skin. But it was worth it. The pool was now a thick, wobbly mass, a giant jiggling pit of chaos. The next morning, I dragged my lawn chair to the patio, poured myself a cup of coffee, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. What the hell? Karen's shriek tore through the morning air like a fire alarm. I took a sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. Moments later, she stormed into my yard, phone in hand like a weapon. "What did you do?" she demanded, pointing at the pool. I set down my coffee with exaggerated calm. "You said it's community property, so I thought I'd make it something the whole neighborhood could enjoy." You. This is Karen sputtered, clearly searching for a way to make this my fault. "Looks like a dessert buffet to me," I added casually. Karen's kids appeared behind her, their faces lighting up like Christmas morning. One of them bolted straight for the pool, jabbing a stick into the jiggling mass. It's gross. The kid howled, but he was laughing. His brother, not to be outdone, grabbed a pool noodle, and started stirring the gelatin like he was mixing a potion. A third kid grabbed a spoon from somewhere, and started eating straight out of the pool. "Stop that," Karen shrieked. "Hey," I called, feigning concern. "If this is community property don't I have a right to use it however I want?" Karen's face turned an alarming shade of red. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "I'm calling the HOA, she snapped. "Great idea," I said, smiling. I'd love to hear their take on this. By the time she stomped off, her kids were still happily poking at the jiggling mess. It was hard to tell whether I'd won or not, but either way, Karen had no idea what she was in for. 2 days later, I found myself in an emergency HOA meeting, seated at a long table, alongside the usual suspects. The HOA president, a few neighbors, and of course Karen, who had arrived in full victim mode. "I'm just so upset she said dramatically. "I tried to enjoy our lovely pool, our shared pool, and now it's been turned into..." Her voice faltered, as she gestured wildly. "A giant bowl of Jello The HOA president turned to me. "Did you really fill your pool with Jello?" I leaned back in my chair, calm as could be. "Well, Karen insisted my pool was community property so I thought I'd create something everyone could enjoy." "It's quite the conversation starter, don't you think?" A few people snorted. Even the HOA president's lip twitched. "Technically," he said, shuffling some papers, "if Karen claimed your pool as public property, you're entitled to interpret that however you like." Karen's eyes bulged. "You can't be serious." "Well," the president added with a shrug, "next time, I'd suggest clarifying boundaries before jumping into someone's pool, uninvited." Karen's jaw worked like she was trying to summon words that wouldn't come. I smiled at her across the table, and for the first time since this all began, she had nothing to say. The meeting ended with no penalties, no fines, just Karen storming out, her face redder than the cherry Jello now staining my pool tiles. For the next week, my pool became a neighborhood attraction. Kids showed up with spoons, laughing and daring each other to jump in. Parents rolled their eyes but couldn't help smiling. The whole thing became a weird sort of legend, the Great Jello Pool Incident. As for Karen, she stayed far away, muttering to anyone who would listen about how I'd ruined the community aesthetic. Rumor had it she spent hours scrubbing Jello out of her kids' hair and towels. I figured she'd think twice before ever claiming my pool again, and if she didn't, well, there's always pudding. The aftermath of the HOA meeting was glorious. Karen had marched home in a huff, her face twisted like she'd just swallowed a lemon whole. I knew she wouldn't give up that easily, but for now I basked in my victory. My Jello-filled pool had become the talk of the neighborhood, kids laughing, parents shaking their heads in amused disbelief. Some of the braver ones even brought spoons and treated it like an oversized dessert station. It wasn't what I'd planned, but honestly, it was pretty funny watching a bunch of 8-year-olds treating my pool like a buffet. But Karen wasn't done. 2 days after the HOA meeting, I came home to find a letter taped to my front door, the kind written in all caps with words like urgent and immediate action required, underlined 3 times. Karen's signature was scrawled at the bottom, along with several highlighted citations from the HOA's bylaws. Apparently, she'd spent the past 48 hours digging through legal documents to find something, anything she could use against me. You are hereby ordered to remove the gelatinous obstruction from the pool area within 72 hours, or face further action, the letter warned. I laughed out loud. Gelatinous obstruction, that was rich. Still, I knew she was serious. Karen didn't bluff when she had a grudge, so I grabbed my bucket, my trusty pool net, and a few trash bags and got to work. Cleaning the pool was a nightmare. The Jello had solidified into this weird semi-liquid sludge that clung stubbornly to the pool walls. Scooping it out was like trying to shovel pudding with a fork. The more I scraped and dumped, the more the gelatin seemed to spread. By the 3rd hour, I'd only cleared a small section near the steps. That's when Karen appeared. She stood at her fence sipping iced tea like a queen overlooking her kingdom. "Having fun?" she called sweetly. I gritted my teeth and ignored her. "You know," she went on, "if you'd just followed the rules from the start, none of this would have happened." I shot her a look. If you hadn't claimed my pool as community property, this wouldn't have happened either. Karen sipped her drink, smug as ever. "Well," she said with a smile, "I guess we'll see what the HOA thinks when you miss that deadline." I paused. That's when I realized what she was hoping for. She wanted me to fail. If I couldn't clear the pool in time, the HOA would have grounds to fine me, or even force me to drain the pool entirely. Karen wasn't just trying to win. She wanted to humiliate me. Fine, if that's what she wanted, I'd give her a show. I spent the rest of the day scooping out what I could, but I knew I needed a better plan. That night, inspiration struck. The next morning, I set my plan in motion. I rented an industrial-grade wet vacuum, the kind construction crews use to suck up floodwater. I hauled it to my backyard, powered it up, and started slurping Jello straight out of the pool. The vacuum roared like a jet engine, swallowing the gelatinous mess with ease. It was actually kind of satisfying, like power washing a driveway, but stickier. Karen, of course, couldn't stand it. She showed up on her patio again, squinting suspiciously. "That doesn't look HOA approved," she called out. "Neither does trespassing," I shot back. By the end of the day, the pool was nearly clear. Only a faint pink tint lingered in the water, like the ghost of a cherry-flavored apocalypse. I thought that was the end of it, but Karen had one last move. The next morning, I woke up to find a health inspector in my backyard. "This pool's a biohazard," the man announced grimly, clipboard in hand. "Got a complaint about contamination." I knew exactly who had called. Karen stood at her fence, her smug smile practically glowing. The inspector took one look at the faintly pink water and frowned. "You'll need to fully drain and sanitize the pool," he said. "Sorry, but that's protocol." I felt my stomach drop. Draining the pool meant losing weeks of work and spending hundreds on refilling it. Worse, Karen would win. But just as the inspector was scribbling notes, my neighbor Greg strolled by with his daughter, Maddie. "Hey," Greg called out. "You're the Jello guy." The inspector blinked. "Jello? Oh yeah," Greg laughed. "That was genius. The kids loved it." The inspector's pen hovered midair. "Wait, this was intentional." "Absolutely," Greg said. "Big neighborhood hit. Everyone loved the Jello pool party." The inspector paused, then turned back to me. "Well, as long as there's no actual contamination. I've already vacuumed most of it out," I said quickly. "It's just food coloring at this point." The inspector nodded slowly. "All right, just shock it with chlorine, and you're good to go." Karen's face twisted like she'd bitten into an onion. "Have a great day, Karen,"
I called cheerfully. A week later, my pool was back to its original crystal blue state, and Karen's humiliation had become neighborhood legend. Kids still joked about the great Jello disaster, and I even got a few requests to do it again for a party, which I politely declined. But the real victory. 2 weeks later, Karen installed a brand new pool in her backyard, a sparkling above-ground monstrosity that practically glowed under the sun. She held a grand opening party, complete with balloons and overpriced pool floats. She even handed out flyers claiming her pool was the best on the block. The kicker: hardly anyone showed up. Apparently, the kids preferred my community Jello pool. A few days later, I spotted Karen sitting alone on her pool deck, quietly scowling at her empty pool. So, naturally, I couldn't resist. I walked to the fence, raised a glass of lemonade, and called out, "Hey Karen, if your pool's community property mind if I take a dip?" She didn't answer, just stormed back inside. Victory never tasted so sweet.